The pipe felt cold in Kian's hand. Rusty, heavy enough to crack bone. 3 men, 1 girl. An alley that smelled like piss and rotting garbage. Kian was 17 years old, starving, and sleeping in cardboard. He had every reason to walk away. Every logical reason to stay invisible like he'd been for the past 8 months since he'd run from his last foster home. The girl screamed again. Please. I don't have any money. The biggest one, shaved head, neck tattoos, grabbed her wrist. We don't want money, sweetheart. Kian's stomach twisted. His ribs already ached from sleeping on concrete. His hands shook from hunger. He was nobody. Nothing. A ghost that the city stepped over every single day. But his feet moved anyway. Hey! The 3 men turned. Kian saw their faces register confusion, then amusement. The girl's eyes went wide. Brown eyes, terrified, smeared mascara on her cheeks. Get lost, kid, neck tattoos said. Unless you want what she's getting. Kian raised the pipe. His voice came out steadier than he felt. Let her go. They laughed. All 3 of them. The sound echoed off the brick walls. Oh, this is precious, the second one said. Skinny guy, face full of acne scars. A homeless night in shining garbage. The third one, wearing a stained white tank top, cracked his knuckles. I'm gonna enjoy this. Kian didn't wait. Couldn't afford to. He'd learned on the streets that hesitation got you killed. He charged. The pipe connected with tank top's knee. The crack was audible. The man went down screaming. Then the world exploded into pain. Neck tattoos hit him like a freight train, slammed him against the brick wall so hard Kian's vision went white. The pipe clattered away. Fists rained down. Face, ribs, stomach. Professional hits. These guys knew how to hurt people. Kian tasted copper. Blood. His own. He couldn't breathe. Couldn't see. But through the haze of pain, he heard the girl's footsteps. Running. Getting away. Good. Acne scars kicked him in the ribs. Something cracked. Kian screamed. You think you're a hero? Neck tattoos grabbed Kian's hair, yanked his head back. You're just another street rat. Nobody's gonna. Sirens. Distant but getting closer. Cops. Acne scars hissed. Vince, we gotta go. Vince. Neck tattoos threw Kian down. You're lucky, trash. Next time, I'll finish you. Their footsteps faded. Kian lay in a puddle that might have been water or might have been blood. His ribs felt like broken glass grinding inside his chest. Every breath was agony. The sirens got louder. Kian forced himself up. Cops meant questions. Questions meant system. System meant back to foster care or juvie. He'd rather die in an alley than go back in a cage. He stumbled into the shadows, leaving a trail of blood behind him. He had no idea that the girl he'd saved was Maya Rourke. He had no idea her father was called the Butcher. He had no idea that by sunrise, 500 men on motorcycles would be tearing the city apart looking for him. And he definitely had no idea they weren't hunting him to hurt him. They were hunting him to kneel. Kian had been invisible for 237 days. He knew because he'd been counting. Every morning he woke up in the condemned building on Archer Street. He scratched a mark into the wooden beam above his sleeping bag. 237 marks. 237 days since he'd walked out of the Hendersons' house with nothing but the clothes on his back and his dad's old army jacket. The jacket was green, 3 sizes too big, and falling apart at the seams. But it was warm. It was all he had left of a man he barely remembered, a soldier who'd died in some desert halfway across the world when Kian was 6. The city didn't see Kian. People looked through him, past him, around him. A skinny kid with hollow cheeks and dirty blonde hair that hung in his eyes. Just another piece of urban debris. That was fine. Invisible meant safe. Safe meant surviving. Kian had a routine. Wake before dawn. Hit the dumpsters behind Giuseppe's Italian restaurant before the rats got everything. If he was lucky, he'd find half a lasagna or some breadsticks that were only a day old. Then he'd spend the day moving. Libraries for warmth, parks for handouts. Always watching for cops or social workers, or anyone who might ask questions. Today was Thursday, Giuseppe's night. Kian's stomach growled as he made his way through the back streets, keeping to the shadows out of habit. The autumn air bit through his jacket. November in the city meant frost soon. Meant finding somewhere with heat or freezing to death. One problem at a time. The alley behind Giuseppe's was darker than usual. One of the streetlights was out. Kian paused at the entrance. Every instinct screaming caution. But hunger was louder than instinct. He was halfway to the dumpster when he heard voices. Male. Multiple. Coming from the other end of the alley. Kian froze. His eyes adjusted to the darkness. 3 figures. Big guys. Blocking someone against the wall. A girl's voice. I said no. Leave me alone. Not his problem. Kian had learned that lesson the hard way a dozen times over. Getting involved meant attention. Attention meant trouble. Trouble meant pain. He started backing toward the entrance. The girl screamed. Kian's feet stopped moving. His hands clenched into fists. His therapist, back when he'd had a therapist, back when he'd been in the system, had told him he had a pathological need to protect people. It stems from your inability to protect your mother, she'd said, scribbling notes on her pad. You're trying to fix something that can't be fixed. Maybe she was right. His mom had overdosed when he was 9. He'd found her on the bathroom floor. Too late to help. Too small to carry her. All he could do was call 911 and watch them zip her into a bag. The girl in the alley wasn't his mother. Wasn't his responsibility. Wasn't his problem. But she was screaming. Kian looked around. His eyes landed on a pipe, rusty metal, maybe 3 feet long, lying next to the dumpster. He picked it up. The weight felt wrong in his hands. He wasn't a fighter. Wasn't tough. He was just a hungry kid who couldn't mind his own business. He moved closer. The 3 men came into focus. The biggest one had his hand on the girl's arm. She was young, maybe 16, Kian's age. Dark hair. Leather jacket. She looked like she came from money. Wrong place. Wrong time. Please, she was saying. My dad will give you money. Whatever you want. Just let me go. The big one laughed. We don't want your daddy's money, princess. That was when Kian's mouth opened. Hey. 3 heads turned. 3 pairs of eyes locked onto Kian. In that moment, standing in the alley with a rusty pipe and a death wish, Kian saw himself through their eyes. A scarecrow in a ratty jacket. Nobody. Nothing. A joke. The girl saw him too. Her eyes went wide. Not with hope exactly, but with horror. Like she couldn't believe this pathetic kid was trying to help her. Get lost, kid, the big one said. Vince. Kian would learn his name later, but right now he was just neck tattoos, a wall of muscle with serpents inked up his throat. Unless you want what she's getting. Kian's voice came out stronger than he felt. Let her go. The skinny one, acne scars, grinned. Oh, this is precious. A homeless night in shining garbage. The third one, tank top, stained white, and straining over a beer gut, cracked his knuckles. I'm gonna enjoy this. They spread out. Predators circling. Kian had seen this before, in foster homes, in group homes, in every place he'd ever tried to stay. Violence had a rhythm. You learned to recognize it, or you didn't survive. He didn't think. Couldn't afford to. Thinking meant fear, and fear meant paralysis. Kian charged. The pipe whistled through the air. Connected with Tank Top's knee with a sound like a branch snapping. The big man went down, screaming, clutching his leg. Run! Kian shouted at the girl. She didn't need to be told twice. She bolted past him, footsteps echoing down the alley. Then Vince hit him. The world tilted. Kian's back slammed into the brick wall so hard, he felt his spine compress. Air exploded from his lungs. The pipe fell from nerveless fingers, clattering on asphalt. Vince's fist came at his face like a sledgehammer. Kian twisted. The punch grazed his temple instead of breaking his nose. Stars exploded across his vision anyway. You little punk. Vince grabbed Kian's jacket, yanked him forward, and drove a knee into his stomach. Kian doubled over, gagging. No air. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Acne scars kicked him in the ribs. The crack was audible, a sound Kian felt more than heard. Something broke inside him. Pain like fire, spreading through his chest. He went down. The concrete was cold against his cheek. Wet. Smelled like old beer and motor oil. Boots. Everywhere. Kicking. Stomping. Kian curled into a ball, trying to protect his head, his ribs, his kidneys. Foster care had taught him this much. How to take a beating, how to make yourself small, how to survive. You think you're a hero? Vince grabbed his hair, yanked his head back. Kian's scalp screamed. You're just another street rat. Nobody's gonna miss you. Nobody even knows you exist. Blood in his mouth. Copper and salt. Kian tried to speak, couldn't. Tried to move, couldn't. His body wasn't his anymore, just meat and pain. Through the haze, he heard it. Distant. Getting closer. Sirens. Cops. Acne scars hissed. Vince, we gotta go. Vince's face was inches from Kian's. breath like cigarettes in rage. You're lucky, trash. Next time, I'll finish you. He threw Kian down. Kian's face hit the concrete. More pain. Everything was pain. Footsteps running. Fading. The sirens got louder. Kian forced his eyes open. Red and blue lights reflected off the wet alley walls. Getting closer. Too close. Move. Had to move. Cops meant questions. Questions meant social services. Social services meant the system. The cage. The endless cycle of homes where nobody wanted you, where you were just a check from the state. He'd rather die free than live in another cage. Kian pushed himself up. His ribs screamed. Something was definitely broken. Maybe multiple somethings. Every breath felt like inhaling broken glass. His hands found the wall. Used it to pull himself upright. The world spun. Tilted. His vision went gray at the edges. The sirens were right there. Right outside the alley. Kian stumbled deeper into the darkness. There was a gap between two dumpsters. He squeezed through, every movement agony. Found a fire escape. Grabbed the ladder. Pulled himself up one-handed, the other arm wrapped around his ribs. By the time the cops entered the alley below, Kian was gone. Invisible again. But he was bleeding. And somewhere in the city, a girl named Maya Rourke was telling her father what happened. And that father was about to declare war. The Iron Skulls Motorcycle Club occupied a warehouse on the south side. From the outside, it looked abandoned, rusted metal siding, broken windows, weeds growing through cracks in the parking lot. The kind of place cops drove past without looking twice. Inside was different. Inside was a kingdom. The main room had been converted into what the members called the hall. Pool tables, a full bar, leather couches arranged around a massive stone fireplace. Motorcycle parts were scattered on workbenches. The walls were covered with photos, brothers on bikes, brothers in fights, brothers who'd fallen and brothers who'd survived. And at the center of it all, sitting in a throne made from welded motorcycle parts and genuine leather, was Butch, the Butcher Rourke. 6'5", 270 pounds. Tattoos covering every inch of visible skin, skulls and flames and names of the dead. A scar running from his left eye to his jaw. A gift from a rival club leader who'd learned too late that you don't challenge a king and live to tell about it. Butch had been president of the Iron Skulls for 23 years. He'd built the club from 6 men and 3 bikes into an empire. They ran protection, merchandise, enforcement. They owned half the city's nightlife and most of its underground economy. But none of that mattered as much as his daughter. Maya was 16. Smart. Beautiful. Everything Butch had left of his wife, who died giving birth. He'd raised Maya in this world, taught her to ride before she could drive, taught her to throw a punch before she could throw a ball. She was the princess of the Iron Skulls, protected by 500 men who would die on her word. Which was why when she came through the door at 11:47 p.m. with tears streaking her mascara and her shirt torn at the shoulder, the entire hall went silent. Butch was on his feet before his brain registered movement. Maya. She ran to him, threw her arms around him, buried her face in his chest. The hall erupted. Brothers standing, hands moving to weapons. The temperature dropping 20 degrees as every man in the room shifted into combat mode. Butch held his daughter. His hands that had broken bones and ended lives, were gentle as they tilted her face up. Who? I'm okay, Maya said. Her voice shook. Dad, I'm okay. Who? The word came out like gravel and broken glass. I don't know. 3 guys. In the alley behind Rocco's. I was stupid. I took the shortcut. I wasn't thinking. Did they touch you? Each word was precise. Controlled. The kind of calm that came right before an explosion. They tried. But, Dad, there was this boy. He just appeared out of nowhere, and he fought them. All 3 of them. He saved me. Butch's eyes scanned her. Torn shirt. Bruises forming on her wrist. But no worse. No blood. No. He exhaled. The first breath since she'd walked in. Where is he? Butch asked. This boy. I don't know. I ran when he told me to. When I looked back, they were beating him. Dad, they were really hurting him. And then the cops came and everyone scattered. I tried to find him, but her voice broke. He was homeless, I think. He looked so thin. And his jacket was all torn up. Army green. Oh. Butch's second in command, a man called Reaper, stepped forward. The guys who tried to grab her? 3 men, Maya said. The leader had tattoos on his neck. Snakes. The other 2, one was skinny with bad skin, The other was fat in a white tank top. Reaper pulled out his phone, started texting. Within seconds, the entire club would have descriptions. Within minutes, scouts would be hitting the streets. But Butch was focused on something else. This boy? Describe him. Young. My age, maybe. Blonde hair, really dirty. So skinny, Dad. And that green jacket, it was way too big for him. He had this pipe, and Maya's eyes filled again. He knew he couldn't win. He knew they'd hurt him. But he did it anyway. He saved me, and then he disappeared. Butch looked at his daughter. Then he looked at his club. 50 men in the hall. Another 400 scattered across the city. An army at his command. Find him, Butch said. His voice carried to every corner. The boy in the green army jacket. I don't care if you have to wake up every homeless kid in the city. Find him. And find the 3 men who put their hands on my daughter. Boss, Reaper said carefully. The cops might already have the guys in custody. Then we'll get them from the cops. Butch's eyes were cold. Empty. The eyes of a man who'd done terrible things and would do worse. Nobody touches her. And nobody who saves her walks away without getting what they're owed. He turned back to Maya. Touched her cheek. Go upstairs. Get cleaned up. You're safe now. Dad? The boy. You're not going to hurt him, right? He helped me. Baby girl. Butch smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. I'm going to give him everything. Maya nodded and headed for the stairs that led to their private quarters. The moment she was gone, Butch's smile vanished. Reaper. Lock down the south side. I want eyes on every alley, every corner, every place a homeless kid might hide. Find that boy before sunrise. And the 3 guys? Bring them to the basement. Alive. I want to ask them some questions personally. Reaper grinned. It'll be done. Butch sat back in his throne. Around him, the iron skulls mobilized. Phones came out. Engines roared to life in the parking lot. The hunt was on. Somewhere in the city, a boy was bleeding and alone. Thinking he was just another forgotten kid who'd done one good thing before disappearing back into the shadows. He had no idea that 500 men were about to turn his world upside down. Kian woke to agony. Every muscle screamed. His ribs felt like they were being crushed in a vice. His left eye was swollen shut. Blood had dried on his face, in his hair, on his jacket. He was in his usual place, the condemned building on Archer Street, 3rd floor, northeast corner. His sleeping bag was soaked with blood. The wooden beam above his head showed 237 marks. Today would be 238. If he survived, Kian tried to sit up. The pain doubled, tripled. He gasped, fell back, stars exploding across his vision. Something was definitely broken. Maybe multiple ribs. Maybe worse. He needed a hospital. Which meant cops. Which meant questions. Which meant game over. So no hospital. Kian focused on breathing. Shallow breaths. Small. Each one a negotiation with his broken body. Outside, the sun was coming up. Friday morning. The city waking up to another day. He had to move. Staying in one place was dangerous. The guys from last night, they might come looking. Might want to finish what they started. Using the wall for support, Kian pulled himself upright. The world tilted. His vision grayed. He tasted bile, forced it down. His reflection in a broken window showed a horror show. Face purple with bruises. Lip split. Eye swollen. He looked like he'd gone 10 rounds with a professional boxer. He looked like he was dying. Maybe he was. Kian grabbed his backpack, everything he owned in the world. A spare shirt. A toothbrush. A photo of his mom, creased and fading. He slung it over his shoulder, nearly passed out from the pain, and started for the stairs. Each step was a marathon. By the time he reached the ground floor, he was shaking, sweating despite the cold. His vision kept darkening at the edges. He stumbled out into the alley behind the building. The morning air bit through his jacket. He needed food, water, medical attention he couldn't get. First things first. Stay mobile. Keep moving. Kian made it 3 blocks before he heard them. Motorcycles. The sound rolled through the streets like thunder. Deep. Powerful. Multiple engines. Coming closer. Kian's heart kicked into overdrive. He pressed himself into a doorway, tried to make himself small. Invisible. 3 bikes rounded the corner. Big choppers. Chrome gleaming. Men in leather cuts. Vests that marked them as club members. The patches on their backs showed a skull with iron teeth. Iron Skulls MC. Kian had seen them around. Everyone had. You didn't live in this city without knowing about the Iron Skulls. They were dangerous. Untouchable. The kind of people you crossed the street to avoid. The bike slowed. Stopped. The riders were showing something to a homeless woman sitting against a building. A phone. A picture on the screen. Kian's blood turned to ice. He couldn't hear what they were saying, but he saw the woman shake her head. Saw one of the bikers hand her a 20. Saw them mount up and move on. They were looking for someone. Kian waited until they were gone, then forced himself to move. He needed to get off the main streets. Needed to. Kid. Kian turned. The homeless woman was waving at him. Hey, kid in the green jacket. Come here. No. No, no, no. Kian ran. Pain exploded through his ribs. His vision went white. His legs felt like rubber. But he ran anyway, stumbling down an alley, around a corner, into a maze of back streets he knew better than his own name. Behind him, he heard an engine roar to life. They'd seen him. The city was a grid. Streets intersecting. Alleys connecting. Kian had spent 237 days learning every shortcut, every hiding place, every route that didn't involve main roads or police presence. Now that knowledge might save his life. He ducked through a gap between two buildings, too narrow for a motorcycle. Came out on Jefferson Street. A bus was pulling away from the curb. Kian threw himself forward, grabbed the back bumper, let it pull him 3 blocks before dropping off and rolling into another alley. His ribs screamed. Blood soaked through his shirt. But he couldn't stop. Couldn't rest. More engines. Everywhere. The sound was inescapable, a net closing in from all sides. Kian didn't understand. 3 random guys in an alley shouldn't trigger this kind of response. Unless they were connected. Unless they worked for someone. Unless Kian had stepped into something bigger than a random assault. He was just a kid. Just a nobody. Why would an entire motorcycle club care about him? Unless they thought he'd seen something. Unless they wanted to silence him. Terror gave him strength. Kian pushed through the pain, moving from shadow to shadow. He spotted another patrol. 2 bikes, riders in identical cuts. They were checking a group of teenagers, showing them something on a phone. That photo again. Were they showing people Kian's picture? How did they even have a photo of him? He needed to get out of the city. The train yards. If he could make it to the freight trains, he could hop a car heading east. Disappear into another city. Start over with a new number on a new beam. The train yards were south. 2 miles through hostile territory. Kian moved. Every block was a war zone. Bikers on corners. Scouts in cars. The Iron Skulls had mobilized an army to find one skinny homeless kid. It didn't make sense. None of this made sense. His body was failing. Each breath was agony. His legs shook with exhaustion. Blood dripped from somewhere. He couldn't even tell where anymore. Everything hurt. He collapsed in an alley behind a Chinese restaurant. Couldn't go further. Needed rest. Just 5 minutes. His vision swam. The world tilted. Kian's eyes drifted closed. He dreamed of his mother. Of her smile before the pills took it away. Of her voice singing him lullabies. Of the bathroom floor and the sound of sirens and the feeling of being too small to help, too weak to save anyone. You're trying to fix something that can't be fixed. But he'd saved that girl. Last night. In the alley. He'd saved her even though it cost him everything. Maybe that was enough. Maybe. A hand grabbed his shoulder. Kian's eyes snapped open. He lashed out, fist connecting with something solid. Whoa. Easy kid. Not a biker. A man in a stained apron. The restaurant owner. Asian. Middle-aged. Concerned eyes. You okay? You're bleeding all over my alley. Kian tried to stand, fell. The man caught him. Hospital, the man said. I'll call. No. Kian's voice came out as a rasp. No cops. No hospital. Please. The man studied him. Saw the fear. Saw the desperation. Maybe saw his own story there. Everyone in this city had a story about running from something. You in trouble with the law? Kian shook his head. Worse. The Iron Skulls. The man's face went pale. The motorcycle club? What did you do? I don't know. There was a girl. I helped her. And now they're everywhere. The man was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. I have a storage room. It's not much. But you can rest there. Few hours. Then you need to go. Thank you, Kian whispered. The man helped him inside. Through the kitchen, past confused cooks, into a small room filled with boxes and supplies. A cot in the corner. It looked like heaven. Kian collapsed onto it. His eyes closed. What's your name? The man asked. Kian. I'm Jimmy. Get some rest, Kian. Whatever trouble you're in, you can't run from it if you're dead. The door closed. Darkness. Silence. Kian slept. And while he slept, the hunt continued. More bikes. More scouts. The dragnet tightening. Butch Rourke in his warehouse, studying maps, coordinating search patterns like a general planning an invasion. The Iron Skulls had never failed to find someone they were looking for. They weren't about to start now. Vince's face hurt like hell. The homeless kid had gotten in a lucky shot, the pipe connecting with his jaw. Nothing broken, but it throbbed like a son of a gun. More than that, though, his pride was wounded. 3 grown men couldn't handle one scrawny teenager. It was embarrassing, humiliating. And Vince didn't handle humiliation well. He sat in his apartment, a studio dump in the warehouse district, with ice on his face and murder in his heart. His 2 partners, Tommy and Dex, were there too. Tommy with his acne-scarred face and Dex with his ruined knee, elevated on pillows. Kid broke my knee, Dex moaned. I'm gonna need surgery. Shut up, Vince said. We're gonna do more than break his knee. Cops are looking for us, Tommy pointed out. That girl probably gave them descriptions. So what? We've been arrested before. That's not the problem. Vince lowered the ice. The problem is that little punk made us look weak. Word gets out, we're done in this city. What do you want to do? Vince smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. We find him first, before the cops, and we make sure he can't talk to anyone. Ever. Tommy looked nervous. You mean? I mean exactly that. Vince stood up. Kid's homeless. Nobody knows him. Nobody cares about him. He disappears, and the world keeps turning. The girl can't identify us if there's no witness to corroborate her story. How do we find him? Good question. The city was big. A homeless kid could disappear into 1,000 cracks and crevices. But Vince had resources. He'd spent 10 years running street-level operations. He knew people, knew the underground, knew how to ask questions that got answers. Start with the homeless camps, Vince said. The shelters. The soup kitchens. A kid that age, that beat up, someone saw him. Someone knows where he sleeps. What about the cops? We'll worry about cops later. First, we find the rat. They spent the afternoon making calls, visiting places, flashing a description, blonde kid, 17-ish, green army jacket. Most people claimed they hadn't seen anything. But a few remembered. A skinny kid who kept to himself, who slept in an abandoned building on Archer Street. By evening, Vince had a location. By nightfall, they were watching the building. But Kian wasn't there. The building was empty. Blood on the floor showed he'd been there recently, but he was gone now. He's running, Tommy said. Then we chase. Vince checked his phone. A message from one of his contacts, a homeless guy who traded information for drug money. Someone saw a kid matching the description near the train yards. Heading south. Vince knew what that meant. The train yards. The kid was trying to hop a freight. Leave the city. Move, Vince said. We catch him before he gets on a train. They drove south. The sun was setting, painting the sky blood red. The train yards sprawled across acres, tracks and cars, and switching stations. Perfect place to hide. Perfect place to die. Vince parked the car. They got out, started searching. The yards were mostly empty this time of day. A few workers in the distance. Plenty of shadows. And there, movement. A flash of green. There. Vince pointed. The kid was limping between train cars, heading for a line of freight cars waiting to depart. He was slow. Hurt. Easy prey. Vince grinned. Game over, hero. Kian heard them before he saw them. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Moving fast. Getting closer. He'd slept for 3 hours in Jimmy's storage room. Woke up stiffer, more pain, but at least alive. Jimmy had given him water and some leftover rice before pointing him toward the train yards. Freight leaves at sundown, Jimmy had said. You want out of the city, that's your best bet. So Kian had come here. Navigated the maze of tracks and cars. Found a freight line heading east. Just had to wait for the train to start moving, then hop on. Almost free. But the footsteps meant his luck had run out. Kian turned. Saw 3 figures silhouetted against the dying sun. Recognized them even in shadow, the same men from the alley. The same men who'd beaten him half to death. They'd found him. Well, the big one said. Vince, look who we got here. Kian backed up. His back hit cold metal, a train car. Nowhere to run. Nowhere to go. Vince and his crew spread out, forming a semicircle, boxing him in. You cost me a tooth, Vince said. And you cost Dex his knee. But mostly, you cost me my reputation. Can't have that, kid. Can't have people thinking I'm soft. I don't care about your reputation, Kian said. His voice came out steadier than he felt. Just let me go. Can't do that. See, you're a witness. And witnesses talk. The girl already talked to the cops. But without you to back up her story, it's her word against ours. And we've got alibis. We've got lawyers. She's got nothing. Tommy pulled a knife. Dex pulled a gun. Awkward with his ruined knee, but functional. Nothing personal, Vince said. You should have just kept walking. Should have stayed invisible. Now you gotta pay for being a hero. Kian looked at the knife. At the gun. At 3 men who wanted him dead. He thought about his mother. About the bathroom floor. About all the times he'd been too small, too weak, too late to save anyone. He thought about the girl. Maya. Brown eyes full of terror. The way she'd run when he told her to. She'd lived. That had to count for something. Come on then, Kian said. He picked up a rock. All he had. You want me? Come get me. Vince laughed. Brave. Stupid. But brave. He lunged. Kian threw the rock. It hit Vince in the face. Not enough to stop him, but enough to make him stumble. Then the world exploded with light. Spotlights. Blinding. Coming from every direction. Kian threw up his hands, squinting against the glare. Engines. Dozens of them. Hundreds. The sound was deafening, a wall of thunder that shook the ground. Through his watering eyes, Kian saw them. Motorcycles. Everywhere. Surrounding the train yard. Riders in leather cuts. Iron skulls grinning from their backs. The Iron Skull's MC had arrived. And Kian, bleeding and broken and terrified, thought they were there to finish what Vince had started. He'd never been more wrong in his life. Butch Rourke had been riding motorcycles for 40 years. He'd crossed the country a dozen times. Had raced on desert highways at 140 miles per hour. Had led his club through police roadblocks and rival gang ambushes. But he'd never ridden with this kind of purpose. His daughter's savior was out there. Hurt. Hunted. And Butch was going to find him if he had to tear the city apart brick by brick. The call had come at 6:47 p.m. A scout named Razor, watching the train yards. Got him. Green jacket, blonde kid, beat to hell. And he's not alone. 3 guys closing in. Looks hostile. Butch didn't hesitate. Everyone converge. Now. 500 engines roared to life across the city. The Iron Skulls mobilized. From clubhouses and bars and homes, they came. A tidal wave of leather and chrome and brotherhood. They reached the train yards in minutes. Surrounded it. Cut off every exit. Butch led the way, his bike a custom chopper worth more than most people's houses. Reaper rode beside him. Behind them, an army. The spotlights came on, high-powered floods that turned night into day. They illuminated a scene that made Butch's blood boil. The kid was there. Kian. That had to be him. Blonde, skinny, wearing that green jacket Maya had described. He was backed against a train car, bleeding, barely standing. And 3 men were advancing on him with weapons drawn. One of them was holding a knife. Another had a gun. They were going to kill him. Kill the boy who'd saved Maya's life. Not today. Butch cut his engine. The silence was profound. 500 bikers idling, waiting for the word. He dismounted. 6'5" of controlled fury. Started walking toward the scene. The 3 men froze, weapons still drawn. The kid, Kian, was shielding his eyes against the lights, confusion and terror written across his battered face. Butch walked past Kian without a glance. Walked straight to the man with the neck tattoos. The leader. You, Butch said. His voice was quiet. Deadly. You touch my daughter. And you're hunting my savior. The man tried to speak. We didn't. Butch grabbed him by the throat. Lifted him off the ground one-handed. The knife clattered to the tracks. My daughter told me about you, Butch said. Described your tattoos. Your face. Your friends. He looked at the other 2. All of you. Please, the man gasped. You don't get to speak. Butch threw him down. The man hit the ground hard, rolled, tried to crawl away. Reaper and 3 other club members were already moving. They grabbed the 3 men, disarmed them, forced them to their knees. Basement, Butch said. We'll have a conversation. A long one. The 3 men were dragged away, screaming. The kid, Kian, was still standing there, shaking, holding that pathetic rock like a weapon. Butch turned to him. Studied him. The boy was a mess. Face purple with bruises. Ribs clearly broken. Blood everywhere. But his eyes were fierce. Defiant. This was the kid who'd fought 3 grown men to save a stranger. This was the knight in the gutter who'd stepped up when nobody else would. Kian raised his fists. They were shaking but steady. I won't go easy. Butch almost smiled. The kid thought he was next. Thought the Iron Skulls were here to hurt him. How wrong he was. Butch dropped to one knee. Massive. Powerful. The president of the Iron Skulls kneeling in the dirt of a train yard. Behind him, 500 men did the same. A wave of leather and loyalty, all kneeling for a homeless kid in a torn jacket. Easy, son, Butch said. His voice was gentle now. Soft. You're safe. You protected the princess. That makes you a prince. Kian's brain couldn't process what was happening. One moment, he was about to die. The next, an army of bikers was kneeling in front of him. I don't understand, he whispered. Butch stood, gestured to Reaper. Show him. Reaper pulled out his phone, pulled up a photo, turned it so Kian could see. It was the girl from the alley. Maya. Smiling. Alive. Safe. That's my daughter, Butch said. You saved her life. I didn't. Kian swayed. His ribs were screaming. His vision was going gray. I didn't know. You didn't need to know. Butch caught him as he started to fall, lowered him gently to the ground. Reaper. Medical now. Someone appeared with a first aid kit. Hands, surprisingly gentle, examined Kian's ribs, his face, his wounds. Hospital, the medic said. He needs x-rays. Probably surgery. Then take him. Butch looked at Kian. Best hospital in the city. Private room. Whatever you need. And guards at the door. Nobody gets to you except doctors I personally approve. Kian tried to process this. Why? Because you saved my daughter when you had every reason to walk away. Because you took a beating that should have killed you. Because you're a goddamn hero. Kid, even if you don't know it. I'm nobody, Kian said. The world was spinning. Fading. You're mine now. Butch's voice was firm. Final. Iron Skulls protect their own. And anyone who protects an Iron Skull becomes family. You understand? You're family now. Kian's eyes closed. He couldn't fight it anymore. Couldn't stay conscious. But as the darkness took him, he felt arms lifting him, carrying him, protecting him. For the first time in 237 days, Kian wasn't alone. He woke up in a hospital bed. White sheets. Machines beeping. Pain, but muted now. Medication flowing through and for. A guard sat outside his door. Leather cut. Iron Skull's patch. The man nodded to Kian through the window. A gesture of respect. A nurse came in. Welcome back. You've been out for 14 hours. You had surgery, 3 broken ribs, punctured lung, internal bleeding. You're very lucky to be alive. Where am I? St. Vincent's. Private wing. You have some very concerned visitors outside. The door opened. Maya walked in. She looked different from the terrified girl in the alley. Clean. Dressed in jeans and a leather jacket. Confident. But her eyes were wet. Hi, she said. Hi, Kian managed. I'm Maya. Kian. She sat in the chair beside his bed. My dad told me what those guys tried to do. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. No. Kian's voice was hoarse. You didn't do anything wrong. They did. You saved my life. You would have done the same. Maya smiled. It was a sad smile. No. I wouldn't have. I would have been too scared. But you weren't. You were brave. I was stupid. Same thing sometimes. She reached out, squeezed his hand. Thank you. The door opened again. Butch entered. He filled the room. Not just with his size, but with his presence. Dad, Maya said. This is Kian. Butch nodded. We met. Sort of. He pulled up a chair. Sat down. How you feeling, son? Like I got hit by a truck. Close. You got hit by 3 lowlifes who aren't going to be hitting anyone else for a very long time. Kian didn't ask what that meant. Didn't want to know. The doctors say you'll be here a week, Butch continued. After that, we need to talk about your living situation. I have a place, Kian lied. In a condemned building with no heat or running water. Yeah, I know about it. That's not happening anymore. I don't need charity. Good. Because I'm not offering charity. I'm offering family. Butch leaned forward. You saved my daughter. There's no way I can repay that. But I can try. You need a place to stay? You've got one. At the clubhouse. Your own room. Clean bed. Hot food. No strings. I can't. Yes, you can. And you will. Because if you go back to sleeping in cardboard, I'm going to lose my mind worrying about you. Maya's going to lose her mind. And the entire club is going to lose their minds. You've got 500 overprotective uncles now, kid. Get used to it. Kian looked at Maya. She nodded encouragingly. What do you want from me? Kian asked. Nothing. Finish school. Get your GED if you dropped out. Figure out what you want to do with your life. And when you turn 18, if you want to prospect for the club, we'll talk. But that's your choice. No pressure. No obligations. I don't understand why you're doing this. Butch stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city. I've spent 23 years building this club. Building power. Building respect. And you know what? None of it means anything if I can't protect what matters. Maya matters. And you protected her when I wasn't there. That makes you more valuable to me than any soldier I have. He turned back to Kian. You're a good kid. The world tried to break you, and you're still standing. Still fighting. Still stepping up when nobody else will. That's rare. That's special. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let you waste that sleeping in the cold. Kian felt something break inside him. Not breaking bad, breaking open. Like a dam giving way to a flood of emotions he'd kept locked down for 237 days. Okay, he whispered. Okay. I'll stay. At the clubhouse. Until I figure things out. Butch smiled. It was the first genuine smile Kian had seen on the man's face. Good. Now rest. You've got a lot of healing to do. 3 weeks later, Kian stood in front of a fire. Not the warm kind. The cleansing kind. In his hands, he held his old green army jacket. His father's jacket. The jacket that had kept him warm through 237 nights on the streets. It was torn now. Bloodstained. Falling apart. It was time to let it go. You sure? Reaper asked. The big biker stood beside him in the clubhouse courtyard. Behind them, the Iron Skulls were having a party. Music and laughter and brotherhood. Yeah, Kian said. I'm sure. He'd spent the past 3 weeks recovering. Surgery. Physical therapy. Learning to breathe without pain. And during that time, the Iron Skulls had kept their promise. They'd given him a room at the clubhouse. Furnished it with everything a 17-year-old could want. Got him enrolled in online classes to finish his GED. Made sure he had food, clothes, safety. More than that, they'd given him family. Brothers who taught him to ride. Sisters who taught him to stand tall. A father figure in Butch who was gruff and terrifying and surprisingly kind. And Maya, who visited every day, who became his friend, who reminded him that heroes weren't defined by power or money or status. They were defined by choices. By stepping up when it mattered. My dad wore this jacket, Kian said. It was all I had left of him. You don't need a jacket to remember him, Reaper said. You carry him in here. He tapped his chest. Your old man would be proud of you, kid. Real proud. Kian nodded. Threw the jacket into the flames. Watched it burn. From behind him, Butch approached. He was carrying something, a new jacket. Black leather. Heavy. Quality. On the back was a patch. Not the full Iron Skull's colors. Kian wasn't a member yet. But a prospect patch. A mark of potential. Of possibility. Try it on, Butch said. Kian slipped into the jacket. It fit perfectly. Heavy on his shoulders, but not oppressive. Protective. He turned to face the club. 50 men and women watching him. Smiling. Approving. You're not invisible anymore, Maya said. She'd appeared beside him. You're one of us. Kian looked at the fire. At his old life burning away. At these people who'd taken a nobody and made him a somebody. Thank you, he said. Butch clapped a massive hand on his shoulder. Don't thank us yet. We're putting you to work. Clubhouse needs cleaning. Bikes need maintenance. And Maya needs a ride to school sometimes. I can drive myself, Maya protested. You can. But it's more fun with company. Butch grinned. Besides, Kian needs practice. Can't have him riding solo until he can handle a bike properly. The party continued. Kian stood by the fire, wearing his new jacket, surrounded by his new family. The past was burning. The future was uncertain. But for the first time in 237 days, Kian felt something he'd almost forgotten. Hope. He wasn't a street rat anymore. Wasn't invisible. Wasn't alone. He was Kian. The kid who'd fought 3 men to save a stranger. The kid who'd earned the respect of the most dangerous club in the city. The gutter knight who'd found his iron throne. And his story, the real story, was just beginning. 6 months later, Kian sat on the roof of the Iron Skulls clubhouse, watching the sunset paint the city gold. He'd gotten his GED, enrolled in community college, started working part-time at a motorcycle repair shop the club owned. He'd learned to ride, really ride. Had his own bike now, a gift from Butch for his 18th birthday. He'd prospected for the club, learned their ways, earned his colors through hard work and loyalty. And he'd kept in touch with Jimmy, the restaurant owner who'd helped him that day. Brought the club's business to Jimmy's place. Made sure Jimmy knew he hadn't been forgotten. Maya sat beside him on the roof, thinking deep thoughts, thinking about how different life is now. Better. Unrecognizable. She smiled. You saved my life, you know. And you changed it too. Before you, I thought I knew what strength looked like. Thought it was about power, control. But you showed me it's about choices. About doing the right thing even when it costs you everything. You would have done the same, Kian said. Maybe. Maybe not. But I'll never forget what you did. They sat in comfortable silence. Below them, the club was gathering for dinner. Laughter and music drifted up. Kian's phone buzzed. A text from Butch. Food's ready. Get down here before Reaper eats everything. Come on, Maya said. Family's waiting. Family. The word still felt strange. Precious. Real. Kian stood, offered Maya his hand, pulled her up. Together, they climbed down from the roof. Together, they joined their family. And somewhere in the city, another kid was sleeping in cardboard. Another invisible person waiting for someone to see them. Kian made a mental note. Tomorrow, he'd go looking. He'd find them. He'd help them. Because that's what heroes did. And Kian, the boy who'd been nobody, who'd become somebody, who'd found his throne in the gutter and his family in iron, was a hero, even if he still didn't quite believe it himself.